ABC 1 2 3, microphone check. Can you see all that I have going on here? Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining me today. I am out and about enjoying this cold weather that we have here in Texas. For us, it's actually pretty cold. It's sitting around 34, 36 degrees, and wind chill's about 25. It's like one of the only times that I get to wear my my wool pullover. But was out here enjoying the weather and making some oatmeal and hot chocolate. Wanted to do a video that I was actually tagged in. Mr. William Collins tagged me in a video about a week or two ago. Yeah, it was a big honor. I'm a big fan of his channel. I love what he does. I love his hunting trips, and he's an incredible knife maker. I own one of his older knives and plan on getting more, but he tagged me in a video that I've kind of seen a few people do. One of the bigger names that comes to mind is Really Big Monkey. I think it's the same tag. It's basically something along the lines with is what makes a good survival or bushcraft knife. And I think the goal of it is to try to distinguish between which one is which. Like, what's the difference and what makes a good survival or bushcraft knife. And before I get into any of my opinions or anything that I think about it, I can tell you right now, like, I'm not going to be able to answer that for you. I'm not going to be able to. William Collins isn't going to be able to. Really Big Monkey, anybody else that gets tagged in this video are not going to be able to answer the question that you have to figure out for yourself, because it's totally based on preferences. What may work for me in my area may not work at all for you in your area. What I enjoy using and have fun working wood with and doing tasks with, it may be completely uncomfortable for you. So it's in my opinion, it's a total preference thing, and it's just something that takes time. Now, is there certain things that can kind of go across the board? Maybe, but even then, I'm sure there's somebody that's proven that theory or that opinion wrong. So I just wanted to kind of put that out front before I get into any of this, because it can turn into a heated discussion, or it can just turn into senseless bickering back and forth, which doesn't solve anything. The main thing is that you're enjoying the knife that you use and you're getting out and using it. I have a bunch of knives, a ton of knives, and some of them I consider more along the collection line and more along a specialty thing, but I won't ever get a knife if I'm not going to use it. It may be something similar to what I already have, but I'm never going to just leave it in the box or put it up, in a glass box and just let it sit there under the pretty limelight. I use all my knives. I use them to the point where I get a patina to where I've got to strap them. Now, I use some more than others. I mean, it's what I've learned. It's my preferences. So that's my main take on all this, is you get out in the woods and have fun, and have even more fun by using a knife and learning how to use it and the different skills and the different things you can do with it. I'm actually going to bring you in and lay out some knives and kind of go over this, I guess. I didn't really know how to approach it. William said pretty much a lot of what I would have said, and Really Big Monkey filled in the holes that I would have maybe come up with. So it's probably going to be a lot of repetitiveness if you've already watched either one of their videos, but he tagged me in it, and I'm going to do it. All right, so like I said, I do have a lot of knives, so don't judge me. I've got a problem, I admit it. So I've got, instead of sitting down on the ground, I'm just going to stay here and then talk to you. Really, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear survival knife or bushcraft knife is blade length, and really blade length, blade thickness. And I don't know why. That's just what I'm predisposed to. I think survival knives tend to be longer and thicker, and bushcraft knives tend to vary all different kinds of ways, where you'll have little small neck knives, puko knives, red-handled moras, up to 5-inch trade knives, or 4-inch keparts, or 4-inch wood lures. I mean, it to me, big knives and survival knives kind of go hand in hand. I don't know why, but that's just what kind of clicks in my head when someone says, hey, what survival knife should I get? I imagine that person's wanting a big knife that can do a bunch of little things, or a bunch of, not little things, but a bunch of things decently. And a bushcraft knife for me is where it excels in a few things very well. To give you a little bit of a background, I think I've done a video on this before, and William and I talked about this because we both live in the same state and kind of have the same terrain. I carry I'm go by a 3-tool mentality, where I want my saw. A folding saw is enough for me here. I want a belt knife that's not some big monster, but something I can work with, and usually a machete or my kukri. That's my mentality. I normally, if I'm going camping or if I'm going to stay and not just do a day hike or something, that's what I'm going to carry with me. So that kind of affects my opinions on this, because I just think that it's not logical, and it's not a wise decision to just carry one knife and have that one tool option, survival one tool option thing. I don't believe in a one tool option. I think there's a multiple set of tools for different tasks. And these are all just my opinions. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm right. It's just what I've kind of come to do. So this is the only William Collins knife that I own, and it's a bigger knife. It's a kukri shape, and it's 3/16. Is this considered a survival knife? Well, I think it just depends. Am I carrying anything else with it? Well, if I'm not, then yeah, it could very well be a survival knife. And I think that just kind of goes into the idea of what are you trying to accomplish? Like, in my opinion, if you're in a survival scenario, it's because you got yourself in that. None of us that practice this stuff or have taken any kind of classes or have gone to any gatherings or just are woodsmen should ever go into the woods with a chance of putting ourselves in a survival situation unless it's an injury. Injuries can be uncontrollable. They can happen to anybody, no matter how skilled you are. But besides that, I mean, I doubt that most of us go into the woods with only one way of starting a fire, or with only one set of clothing and it's supposed to rain, or with no tarp, you know. So I think a survival knife is just a gimmicky sales pitch to draw people into the industry, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I was drawn into it in a sense. I got a few knives early on because they were the knife you're supposed to have, the one tool option, the survival knife, blah blah blah. And so it's not that survival knives that are coined that are bad. It's just, I feel like once you spend enough time doing this stuff, you'll kind of realize that there's a whole other world to knives and figuring out what fits you and fits your hand and fits your skill level and fits what you enjoy doing. Some people despise sitting around and carving spoons, you know, and making wood projects. Some people want to go on walks and spend their time up until dark scouting around and finding stuff and maybe fishing and whatever. So it's gonna, for me, it's gonna come down to what you enjoy doing and where your skill level is. With that said, bigger knives like this absolutely can do a bunch of different things that a smaller belt knife or a Mora can't do as well. I can use the weight of this knife and choke back on it and use a lanyard and chop and process stuff. I have no fear of ever batoning this through any piece of wood. I know that I could easily skin and clean game if I had to. Even though it is thicker, it comes down to a nice fine edge, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this is my survival knife. It's just a knife that could be used in a survival situation, which we should never put ourselves in. And I think your decisions and your moves pre-trip, before you go into the woods, are going to dictate, hands down, whether that trip comes out being fun and a good trip or turns into a scary situation. And that's just my opinion. A bigger knife like this, it can do a bunch of different stuff. I've got, like I said, don't judge me. I'm about to start pulling knives out of my kangaroo pouch. I've got the Matt Graham Condor knife, and this is a bigger knife too. It's not as thick, it's not near as heavy as the William Collins knife, but it's still a bigger blade. It can do a lot of different things. It's a unique shape. It's got features that some other knives might not have, and it works. And with both of these bigger blades, I can do smaller tasks. I can carve. You practice with it and you get to know the knife, and you can do pretty much the same thing. It just may not be as easy, or it may not be as comfortable. You know, like with the thicker blade like this, you're going to get fatigue in your forearm or in your hand if you are chopping it a lot, or if you're, constantly working up close to the edge down here to do small little tasks, or if you are holding it up here to do fine little work with the tip. That weight is going to add into the amount of time that you're going to use it. So there's people that live in South American jungles that use a machete for literally everything, and they don't know any better. So a classic knife that a lot of people think of when you say bushcraft is something like this Genesis, a Kephart style. You've got a 4-inch blade. It comes down to kind of a spear point. It's a Scandi. It's got a sharpened spine, and it's nimble. It's really comfortable. Your grind comes really close back to the scallop here, or to the scallops and to the guard or the choil, and you can do all kinds of stuff with this. Does it mean that I can't take this and go through a 4-inch or 3-inch diameter piece of oak? No, I have absolutely 100% confidence that it can do it. I've done it with this. And buddy Larry Roberts went on alone and spent 60-something days using this knife. He had no complaints about it. So again, I prefer this style knife, but I'm also pairing it up with other tools that'll make my life easier. I think that's a big thing is people get hung up on, you're going down the river and you're hitting class 3 rapids, and for some reason none of your stuff is tied down, and you flip your boat and stuff goes everywhere, and your shirt gets ripped off, and the only thing left is you and your underwear with your belt on somehow. And if you don't have a huge blade or a whatever on your belt, then you're not going to live. And has that ever happened? I'm sure it has. There's been a lot of crazy stuff that's happened to people in this world, but the chances of it are really slim, especially if, like I said, if you're preparing yourself. So this to me screams bushcraft knife, whereas something like a bigger knife like these, or maybe for some reason Essie knives, the bigger Essies, the bigger Schrades, the bigger Condors, those are all, to me, what people think of survival knives. And my opinion is I wouldn't choose one of those to only bring with me to the woods. And it doesn't mean I don't like them. I love all knives. If I had the money, I would just buy a whole bunch of knives and constantly use them all over everywhere. But that's not my situation. So the last two that I have are your classic Mora. I think this is a Mora Companion. I don't think it's a heavy duty. This was one of my very first knives that I bought. It has a patina like crazy on it. It's been stropped over and over again, and it's just an excellent knife. I have no problem throwing this in my truck and knowing that I've got a solid knife. For me, you can't go wrong with the Mora, and I think that's just a universal bushcraft knife. When you think of bushcraft, Morris Kahansky has really done a lot for this knife, and his skill level is clear evidence that you can do just about anything with this, if you're using it the right way. And then I've got a little small Puko. This is one of the smallest knives that I own, and it's an absolute razor, and the handle's beautiful. It's very comfortable. Would I baton this through a 4-inch oak or 3-inch oak? No, I wouldn't, because it's not made for that. This is a woodworking, small carving, camp task knife. I can cut my food up with this. It's got a wicked edge and a nice point. I could easily skin with this, fillet fish, whatever I need to do, and that's what I would use it for. I would save the bigger task for something like my machete, or if I live in an area where I've got big trees, an axe or a buck saw. All right, guys. Well, I rambled on a long time about all that, and I appreciate you hanging in there and listening to all of it. like I said, I think it's really opinionated. It's really based on your preferences and your skill level and just what you're comfortable with. And those are just my thoughts on it. And William tagged me, and I wanted to come through and do it. And it's fun. It's fun to talk about this stuff. If it's not fun, then we shouldn't be doing it. If it's not fun to try different knives and to find out what you like and what you enjoy, then step back from it for a little bit. But yeah, it should just be fun, and using knives is fun, and trying different designs. And that's the good thing about a community like this, is oftentimes if it's something that you really are interested in and you want to try, and the person well enough, people pass knives around all the time, and it's a good way to get your hands on different blades. And I know if you're ever going to come to a gathering or something that I'm going to be at, I normally try to bring the majority of my knives in a bucket so that people have a chance to pick up and sit around the fire and use knives that they may not have gotten to try, or that they don't want to buy it, or they can't afford it. And that means a lot for me personally, if I can hold the knife and try it and figure out if I really like it or not. That's my 2 cents on it. I hope it was interesting for you. William, I appreciate you tagging me. I'm gonna pass this on, and we'll put at the end of the video who I'm gonna tag and get their ideas on it, and we'll see how this goes. So get outside, guys. Enjoy the winter weather. It's beautiful, and stay warm and have fun, guys.